What's up, everybody? So today we're going to be doing Mars in the 7th house, and what happens when Mars is in your 7th house in your birth horoscope. Okay, so let's get started. It's a beautiful Monday morning. So what is 7th house? First of all, 7th house is the house of other people, meaning first house is yourself, 7th house is your spouse. So it's a house of your husband or wife. It's a house of legal bindings. It's a house of legal agreements, meaning this is a main house for business, doing business, because business requires legal, legal clarifications. This is also the house of like public, other people, like not just your spouse, but like public, outside of public, because 7th house is 10th from the 10th. So from the 10th house, if you count 10 places, that's the 7th house. So it also represents your public image. 7th house represents courthouses because it originally is controlled by Libra, who is about balancing things out. Even though it's more so with the business, but it also is seen by the courthouses, not the written of the law, not fighting for the law, which is also 6th and 9th house, but 7th house is the courthouse. Okay, and Mars is a soldier. Mars is a action-oriented planet. Mars is energy within us, where we exert our energy. Okay, so when this comes into the 7th house, Mars here becomes quite a negotiator, a very hard negotiator. These people are very adamant about what they believe in, and when it comes to legal bindings, they're very adamant about, okay, this has to happen, it's going to be this way, and they get into disagreements with the other party if the other party is just as feisty as they are. Because the soldier says, okay, this is where I'm here to conquer this. So wherever Mars is, Mars here to conquer that house and the significance of that house. So in the marriage partnership, or especially in the marriage, not just legal binding, but in marriage, these guys want to play a dominant role. You know, these guys become quite the controlling person in the marriage, especially if Mars is strong. Okay, and in this house, it's you got to remember one thing: Mars is not a businessman. Mars is really the employee, because a soldier is not a businessman. Soldier says, I take orders and I fulfill those orders, like an employee does. Okay, so this house is probably not the best placement to be in business, because of the fact you will get into disagreements with not just your business partner, but with your customers. And you guys might be thinking, oh, well, I have Mars in my 7th house and I'm a businessman. Well, remember this: one planet does not signify the whole story of your life. The significator for business is really Mercury and Saturn. Saturn and Mercury's present in certain houses and sign really signifies the fact that you can do business. Where Mars comes into play is negotiations. Mars is that soldier that needs to win. So when negotiating a contract, when negotiating your terms, that's where Mars does not want to be defeated. It wants to say, okay, I want at least 4 out of 5 terms or 3 out of 5 terms. I will not settle for 2 out of 5 terms. But Saturn is excelled in the 7th house in Libra. Okay, this is why Saturn is a main significator of business, because Saturn knows how to deal with lower class people. Because in original astrology text, businessmen are seen as the lower class people who are out there trading goods and just making money off of trades and not really worrying about the most knowledgeable things in the world. Okay, but a soldier, you know, is telling a soldier to run a business. He just knows how to kill. He just knows how to go and conquer things in a wartime. But yeah, you can look at people as contract killers. It's a business also. But again, don't just think that Mars is doing that. It's the signification of Mercury, who's a businessman, and Saturn, who's also a great businessman. Those comes into play. But here, what Mars does is, it really creates a very argumentative position. So these people can make great lawyers, great attorneys, who can go out there and argue a case for you. But in marriage, though, it can really create a either very passionate relationship or very argumentative relationship. And here's another thing with Mars in the 7th house. Is it always bad for marriage? No. In certain signs, it can actually be very open marriage. Like, kind of like open dating and open relationships. Like your partner can go out and sleep with somebody else and you're okay with that. It makes a very esoteric, open relationship sometimes, especially when Mars is in Gemini and Aquarius. They know the value of lust and they know the value of sexual life, because seventh house also signifies your sex life, and this is where Mars energy is exerted. These people are very passionate and sexual, especially when Mars is debilitated. They get into very impulsive relationship. They become very emotionally attached to the partner. They don't think anymore. Their emotions are all about just being with the partner. And being with the partner, it also means lust for sex. Okay? But the reason why Mars creates an argumentative relationship is because Mars aspect is on the second house. Because Mars looks at 4th, 7th, and 8th place from itself. From the 7th house, it's directly opposite the first house, and next to it is the second house, so 8th aspect. So when Mars argues, it also argues then verbally. The verbal words come out. You know, it may not be, it be very direct and very prudent words. Like, no, I want this, and and you better listen to me. So their harsh speech kind of ruins that part of legal relationship. Now remember, Mars aspects the 10th house from 7th house of career. That means it's in the house of business looking at career, where you might be thinking, oh, this can signify business. But no, it really signifies it being employed. Mars is an employee. He's not a businessman. Mars signifies employment, like working under somebody else. So this is why a government worker, like a government administrative assistant, a government clerk, attorneys who's working in a courthouse or working for a law firm. Again, attorney makes a lot of money, but they might be working under a certain firm. And so this is why this can really signifies, an employment under a courthouse, under a government, under a government agency, because Kendra houses signify government. 1st, 4th, 7th, and 10th house are known as house of the inner government. And so this is where Mars gives 100% aspect on the career house. So this can be really good for career. Now, you can be a businessman too. Just make sure that your Mercury and Saturn are well placed. We'll discuss that later on when I do, what makes a person a businessman in each scenario. You guys will know what exactly you're looking at. But in this house, it can really signify just, a lot of disagreements. So these people are much better off working by themselves than having a partnership. Okay, and this is why marriage is a very tough place for these people, because of the fact marriage is a sacrifice, and marriage is a 50-50% partnership, and where Mars wants to always conquer and wants to take over things. Okay, but again, I've seen people with successful marriage with Mars in the 7th house, and that probably because Mars has good dignity. Mars is in a friendly sign. Mars is in an excelled position with morals. Okay, but yes, there are most of the time, especially in nakshatras or of moon nakshatra, on Rahu's nakshatra, Ketu's nakshatra, Mars becomes really aggressive. Okay, in Saturn nakshatra, Mars becomes very determined, very focused on its own task. Okay, not excelled Mars, but Mars in the nakshatra of Saturn. Okay, and it says Mars aspects the 1st house. Okay, which is the ascendant. It is actually not a bad thing, because first of all, Mars only has 25% aspect on the 7th place. Okay, so there's no harm done, and plus this is the original house of Mars. So this obviously makes a person one of those very shrewd personality, very straightforward personality. So they're not just straightforward in their relationship. They're straightforward in their career, their personality, and when they talk. So this is why this is a very good position for a leader, a government leader, because this person knows how to take charge with their voice, personality, and their action, and their agreements that they make. Because politics is about who gets where, and how much. And this is where Mars is very good at it, because now Mars is in his energy and his passion is now coming into making agreements. Who gets what, where, when, and how much. Okay, one other thing I wanted to remind you guys of is that when Mars is looking at the 2nd house, from his 8th aspect in the 7th house. And 2nd house represents speech, family, and also second marriage. So Mars creates chances of having a second marriage, especially when it's debilitated, because of a lot of arguments. Because a lot of arguments with the family. 2nd house represents your family, whether your family after marriage or before marriage. So it creates a lot of problems, a lot of arguments there over small things, bickering things. Okay, and especially it creates disarguments with the mother, because Mars is in the sign of the mother, Cancer, looking at the 8th house with its most lowest possible dignity. So creates a lot of arguments with the mother. Okay, but especially the family as well. Now, if Mars is excelled, that means he's looking at the 2nd house of the king, Leo, ruled by the sun. So here Mars will serve the family. Mars will protect the family. Mars will die for the family. Mars will do whatever it takes to protect the family, because he's looking at the king's house, and he's not going to do anything in the king's house. Okay, so these are things you want to be aware of. And since Mars represents where our energy is most given, this is where these people actually make very, very passionate partners. They make some of the very loyal partners. So what? There are disagreements in any marriage, okay? But the reason why the marriage usually gets ruined with this placement is when, like, other person is Manglik and you're not Manglik, meaning that your Mars, if one person has Mars in the 12th, 1st, 2nd, 4th, 7th, and 8th house, while the other has it in the 3rd, 5th, 6th, 9th, 10th, and 11th house, then there could be really disagreements because of the fact they have a different outlook versus Mars in these positions. Here, Mars becomes very passionate. They want to be able, they take control, thinking that this is better for both of us. Okay, so if you have 2 Mars in these same signs, they both understand each other that we want best for each other. And so, okay, here, I'll let you take control over me. The other Manglik Mars will say, I'll let you take control over me. And that's where it kind of becomes a better relationship, when Manglik people are with Manglik people. Where if Mars is in a different house, non-Manglik house, and this Mars is in the Manglik house, that's where the thinking pattern is not there to realize that, okay, we both are the same way. The other one says, no, I am different. And the other one says, I am different also. And we're going to butt heads. But when 2 Mars of the same Manglik position comes into play, they just understand each other's energies. They're like, yeah, they're passionate like me. They're sexual like me. And they're loved and they're very talkative like me. They love taking charge in the relationship. Fine, I like this. I'm okay with that, because I'm looking for the same thing. This is why it works out. But you know what? These people are some of the most passionate people out there when it comes to relationship, because their energies goes into taking care of the relationship. All right, guys, so this was my analysis on Mars in the 7th house. If you're new to my channel, subscribe above. And if you want to know more about astrology, check out my link below, my articles, and my book, The Astrology at the Speed of Light. And once you get the book, I will send you the link to look at your own charts and study your own chart after reading my book. Otherwise, see you tomorrow.